Hey guys, Ariel over here at Nyth, where today I wanted to do a little update, kind of based off a lot of the questions I've gotten over the past few years on the most watched video on this channel, which is, can you live in a tiny house in a cold climate? Yes, indeed you can, and apparently lots of people have this question because lots and lots of you guys have watched it and asked me more questions, so I'd like to try to answer a few of those. Now, if you're a regular here, you probably already know most of these things, but I know there's lots and lots of people that are new subscribers just in the last little while, and probably people who will find this video who have never seen any of the others. So, I'm Ariel. I live in the mountains of northern Wyoming, where it is a bit snowy, as you can see. This is my tiny house where I live off-grid, as in with no physical connection to any public utilities, up in the mountains. And let me see if I can rapid-fire go through some of the questions. This is my 5th year here. I am 5th year in my tiny house here. I have lived in this corner of the state for 12 years now, but I am indeed still here. I get asked that all the time, things along the line of, oh, this must be your first year ever, you will never stay, nobody lives like that, you'll never come back, nobody can survive it. I am still here, I still love the snow, it is still snowing. If we get enough snow in the next day, we will break the record, not only, which we already have broken, for the all-time snowiest February in this area, but for the snowiest single month anywhere in the area. We'll be really close to breaking it. I don't know if we'll quite get there. But aside from snowiest months, it is normally snowy here in the winter. I live in the mountains. The valley below me gets a little more. The tops of the mountains above me the valley below me gets a little less than I do. The tops of the mountains above me get a little more than I do. But for the mountains, about 450 inches is an average snowfall year. That, of course, means there are years higher than that. I've been here for years with 600 or 700 inches, and there are years lower than that, like last winter we, I don't know, only had a few hundred. Anyway, this year we have quite a bit, as you can probably see in my pathways around the house, where the snowbanks are now almost level with the house eaves. I still love it here. I love the snow. I am totally comfortable, and yes, indeed, if you stop and prepare for things properly, because I know in a lot of the country this year, there has been really cold spells and really snowy spells for a lot of people who do not normally have quite that much cold or snow, and they have had problems with some of their tiny houses. But if you are prepared for that and expecting it and set up everything with that in mind, it is indeed entirely comfortable to live in a tiny house in a cold place and be comfortable. A few of the most frequent questions. Snow on the roof. I do not shovel my roof, though I do shovel roofs for other people with bigger houses who do not have them slide off so easily. But as you can probably see, the snow just sheds off. I've got a metal roof and a fairly steep pitch. It sheds a little slower over the bedroom loft than it does over the main house, but either way it comes off, and even if it didn't, my roof could take about 180 pounds per square foot, so I would not have any kind of issue with snow on the roof. Single biggest question I get, that's Burley bird watching, and he likes to chase them as they try to come to the feeder. He can't reach them, but he likes to chase after them in the air. Anyway, the single question I have probably gotten more than any other is, why don't I have a snowblower? I have this much snow. I've been told things like, that's crazy, that's not possible, nobody who lives in snow country actually shovels snow, they all have blowers. I've been told you won't be able to do that when you're old. Those may all be true. Well, some of those are probably true statements. I do actually shovel my paths. My main lane, if you're wondering, out to the road, neighbor with a plow does for me. I cook for him and actually do some shoveling for some of his stuff so that he has time to bring his big plow or blower over and clear my lane. But everything around here and to my wood pile and all of that stuff, I shovel. In addition, I shovel for 5 or 6 other people, their houses, doors, roofs, hot tubs, decks, stair steps, all those kinds of things. And so for one, a lot of those things one can't use a blower for. 2, there are a few places you can use a blower, and I do have access to little hand blowers at several of those houses. And my biggest thing is, I personally like shoveling snow in the peace and quiet with a nice sturdy shovel. Lets me listen to audiobooks while I'm working, and I just enjoy that. I do not enjoy the noise and racket of a snowblower, but I do use them in a few places for other reasons in other places, and I know a lot of people think I should have one because it would be less work. I think that's true if you're on like a nice flat, concrete sidewalk or a nice smooth paved lane. But most places I am shoveling and clearing are not flat. They're not paved, they're not concreted, they're on hills, they're lopsided, they're over grass, they're over lumps, and running a snowblower across that is significantly more work than snow shoveling. I can shovel for a 9-hour day, and I'm a little sore and tired. I run that snowblower for 2 or 3 hours, and I feel like somebody just beat me completely up. I really am not a fan. They are useful for a few specific things, and I'm thankful they exist for that. I do not have any desire to use them any more often than absolutely necessary, however. And as far as you may not be able to shovel all that snow when you get old, that's entirely possible. We don't usually tell toddlers, though, they shouldn't bother learning to walk because at some point they may be in a wheelchair when they're elderly. So I don't see any reason to not do things I can do now because at some point in the future something may change. Anyway, that is my thoughts on shoveling and snow blowers because I get asked that all of the time. Probably, like I said, in the entire history of making videos, it's probably the single question I have gotten asked more than any others. Am I comfortable in here? Yes, this house is super well insulated. I have a whole playlist of videos kind of focused on wintry things, and I'll link to that down below. Look under the Show More tab, which is under every video, and you can always find more information. So I'm not going to detail every bit of that here. It would get way too long, but I have a well-insulated house. I use snow as my skirting. I heat with a wood stove inside, which we'll go inside and see in just a minute. Good boy. I have a lovely, cuddly, furry puppy who also loves the snow. Yeah, you gonna leave the birds for a minute and come say hi? Okay, bye-bye. We do get lots of wildlife around here, as you have been able to see if you watch any of those videos. And do I get snowed in? I might have had one morning where I couldn't get anybody for a little bit. The county I live in occasionally gets snowed in because all the ways to get in here basically involve mountain passes or deep canyons, and they can all avalanche closed, and this winter especially, but every winter it's pretty routine that those routes will close for some length of time. They'll be closed for half a day, then they'll be closed for a whole day, then they might be closed for a few days in a row, and so on. So at times the county I live in is snowed in, but I have always been able to, other than a couple hours one time, if I need to drive out my lane and go to somewhere local, I have always been able to do that. If you're wondering about my transportation, I'll link down below again under the Show More tab to a video about my awesome little van that I do use all year round, and it's terrific in the snow. So I think that's the outside questions. Let's go on in. So as you can see, inside it is totally warm and cozy. Burley's just a bit damp from the snow melting on his fur after we came in, but this is my little wood stove that is primarily responsible for keeping this house hot. I have more videos on that if you're interested. It is tiny and it just takes tiny little pieces of wood like this long, and I usually have windows open in here. Now it's a little warmer today because it often warms up to snow that heavily, but we have spent a lot of the winter with it below zero, lots and lots of nights are -15, -17. This is Fahrenheit. And we regularly get temps in the -30s and so on at some point in the winter. So a lot of people ask me about staying warm. Staying warm is not an issue at all. With a well-insulated house, this has R21 spray foam walls, etc., and wood heat, I usually have windows open. Right at the moment there are 3 windows open in the house, and we are cozy and warm, and if I sit here for too long I will get too hot being right beside it. So staying warm is not an issue. I also have a backup propane heater that I can use if I'm gone for too long and cannot fill the stove. Again, I'll link below to more info on the heating options, but it is very possible to stay completely warm and cozy in a tiny house in a very, very cold climate. I know some people are going to say, well, that's a stupid question, because I've been told that as well, that why wouldn't people be able to live in, human beings have been living in small spaces in cold parts of the world for many, many thousands of years, which is true. It's a good point. But I'm answering the question because I have gotten asked this quite frequently, just because a lot of people are not familiar with the kind of modern tiny house on wheels concept that is what I live in, and are very curious about whether or not it's possible to live in one of those in a cold area. And yes, it is indeed. Again, I'm in my 5th winter in this spot in the middle of my gigantic snowdrifts, and I really love it. So the other questions I will get most frequently to do with cold weather are pipes freezing up and water. That doesn't happen for me, because of my water system. It is all internal. I carry my water by hand here because I am not connected to anything, so I'd have nothing external for anything to freeze. The whole inside of the house would have to freeze, and that doesn't happen as long as I'm here and have the heat going. So I don't have any problem with pipes freezing up. I have a whole nother video talking about ways to deal with that and so on if that is an issue with your setup. But for me, that has just never been a problem. And as far as heating with wood, I live in the middle of millions of acres with hundreds of thousands probably of cords of standing dead beetle kill pine. So there's just lots and lots of wood here that tends to go up in 60,000 acre wildfires in the summer if none of it is cleaned up. So I have access right here. I know that's not true everywhere in the country, but I have access right here. Hi, beautiful. I do love you. I do. To lots and lots of firewood that is already dead and even dried out. Back to the snowed in question, as I've said, I never have been, but I also have plenty of food in my pantry here, which you can check out in the kitchen tour video, that I could be here for at least several months without running out of food or going hungry, which also doesn't hurt you at all. I have a video on fasting, but I would be totally fine for a very long time here, and considering the longest I've ever not been able to leave the house, there's the clock, longest I've ever not been able to leave the house is like a few hours. That just has not become an issue. And we got plenty of food for this guy too. Yeah. Trying to think what the other most frequent questions are I've gotten specifically about cold. Again, I will link to the whole list of, playlist of just lots and lots of videos that all include some aspect of winter life here in them if you want more details. But I kind of just wanted to do an update on that since it's been a few years since I posted that video, which again I'll link to down below, but called Can You Live in a Tiny House in a Cold Climate? And because so many people watch that, it is still my most watched video. I just thought I would do an update because there was definitely people in there who said, oh, this must be your first winter and you will not be able to keep doing this. It doesn't work. It's not possible, that kind of thing. Not only was that my third winter, now we're in my fifth winter, and I do still love it. And as I said, there are lots of people who have chosen to live in very cold climates for a lot of human history. Not everyone loves that. Some people very much hate it. I think it's awesome that we have lots of different climates so that all of us can find one we enjoy. I personally do not enjoy heat. It makes me feel ill. 70s is about kind of my top limit. 70s and very low humidity. That's kind of the hottest I ever prefer to see it. And since I live in an area with an average snowfall of 450 inches and where snow is usually on the ground 8 months a year, we are almost at the end of February now, and I fully expect that it will continue to snow for March. We often get some of our biggest snowstorms in the mountains in April. And then in May, it starts to usually peter off. Occasionally still snows into June. But that is a normal winter here. And again, if you have that question, that's what you've been wondering, and you want to live in a particularly cold place or snowy place, and you're wondering if that's possible to do in a cold area, it is very much indeed. And like I said, it does take some thought and preparation. Hi, beautiful. Hi. Hi, hey, hey, you're interrupting. Sit. Good boy. Lay down. Good baby. With some thought and preparation and planning ahead for that, it is entirely possible to do and to be very comfortable while doing it, and even as long as you like snow, to love doing it and want to keep doing it for many more years. Just for fun, and for the people who are new here, let me do a quick walk around outside because you saw kind of the front door in the corner of the house. You can see over the snowbanks. I'm in it, when we were outside, but let's go just do a quick look around at how deep the snow actually is as of today. So outside the door here, over there, we can see the path to the shed. And the snowbanks are pretty high, and there's a few inches of snow here that I'm walking through that I have not shoveled this morning. So there's that. looking back at the house. The reason shed is over there, like I've mentioned before, is that I have gas cans and such that I don't want beside the house where I live. There you can see a snow pile I do need to clean up because that just came off the dormer, and I did have this pathway cleared. But this path goes around the house so that I can get to everything around here. Again, you can see how deep this is getting around here. Just past where I fill the water tank. There's the generator box and so on. Back here to the bird feeders, which we'll have to fill in just a minute. Really likes to run after them. Not that he has any success in getting a bird, but he thinks it's exciting. Out here, come out to the driveway and over to the little path that goes to the woodshed. And the big wood you're looking at is for the outdoor fire pit. That's why that's not covered. It just has snow on it because that only gets used in the summer. And we can sit on that swing set that you can't really see at all right now. But over here where Burley's at, this is the woodshed with our firewood for in the wood stove inside. That's where that is. And up from the woodshed, out there is the garden, which you can't see at all right now. There is Burley standing on the snowdrift above my head. Over there past the garden, if you can see that little bit of a stake right in the center there, sticking out. That is the top of a stake that is propping up the tippy top of my little apple tree. And that stake is 7 feet tall, and there's 2 or 3 inches of it left sticking out. So even though it's getting packed in more solid, and you can see Burley can walk on top of it now, that snow he is on top of is pretty close to 7 feet deep. Looking back over there at the house, come back around the wood pile here. Here comes my snow-loving puppy dog. And that is what February looks like in a tiny house where one can totally live very comfortably in a cold climate. And just for fun, I can still see out the windows because I have kept that shoveled away, but then there's that pathway, and then I can't see much past that. Even if I climb up on the loft stairs here and get up as high as I can't even see the wood pile or the swing set out there at all, unless I get up in the loft, and I can see down from there still. That's how tall it is right now, folks. Don't know if it'll keep getting deeper or if it'll start to just keep compacting under its own weight at this point, but that's what it looks like out there. Just looking at the back side of the house again, and over by the kitchen again. Not much of a view from in here these days. Hi folks, Ariel over here. Thanks for spending some of your valuable time watching these videos. Hopefully you found something beautiful, educational, interesting, peaceful, relaxing, or useful while you were here. If so, find more videos here, subscribe so you don't miss any updates, and if you like what you found here, feel free to like and share away so that others can benefit as well. You all have a wonderful day.